Hey, what's up, fellow slaves? A couple of videos ago, in my video titled 5 times fewer neutralizing antibodies after the Pfizer vaccine, I had made the point that the news about Andrew Cuomo being a creep had come out on the same day as the news about the vaccine mandates in New York City for a reason. The news about Andrew Cuomo being a creep was clearly designed to keep people from having a conversation about the vaccine mandates, or at least to keep people from seeing that people were having a conversation about vaccine mandates. Around the same time, there were a lot of people protesting these vaccine mandates, but those protests never made it onto the front page because you had nonsense like this occupying the front page. Now, I want to make the same point about Afghanistan. I believe that what's happening in Afghanistan right now was designed to happen right now. We have to remember that the original pullout date was set for early May, and then Biden changed it to September 11th, basically early September, late August. Now, why would he do this? Well, I believe it's because they realized that the vaccine mandate timeline wouldn't line up with May, and they realized that they would be actually executing the vaccine mandate around late August, early September, exactly like they're doing. So I think that they pushed it back to this time for this reason, and I believe that they intentionally botched the job. I think they intentionally screwed up the withdrawal so that it would be a more newsworthy headline, so that it would occupy the front page for a couple of days. And it will now. It will now occupy the front page not just this week, but it can do it next week, and then the week after, and of course, the week for September 11th. They'll be talking about how the Taliban now controls Afghanistan all these years after. I just want to make that point at the start of this video so that we don't lose sight of what's going on in the world with the vaccines. Now, with that out of the way, I'm going to get into the articles that I'm going to be covering in this video. So I'm going to be covering 3 articles, one from The Nation, one from RT, and one from the Washington Post. And all 3 articles show how the U.S. has indirectly funded the Taliban in one way or another. They all actually cover 3 different ways the U.S. has inadvertently or indirectly funded the Taliban. So the first article is from The Nation, and it's from 2009. It's titled, "How the U.S. Funds the Taliban." And it pretty much lets us know exactly how they do this in the subcaption, which says, "With Pentagon cash, contractors bribe insurgents not to attack supply lines for U.S. troops." And this is pretty much exactly what happened. So we have independent contractors, we have non-government contractors who run our supplies on our supply lines. They use their own private trucks, their own private vehicles, to run supplies to our army. The Pentagon and the U.S. military, they give these contractors money, and they give them a shit ton of money. And we give them a lot of money because, of course, it's a risky job. There's a lot of threat involved. But we also have to give them a lot of money because we know that they need to use a certain amount of money to bribe these insurgents. I like how they call it insurgents here. It should just say contractors bribe the Taliban not to attack supply lines for U.S. troops. But that's essentially exactly what they did, is if there's some supply lines, all the Taliban has to do is attack those supply lines a couple of times, and that will be enough for the contractors to say, hey, here's some money, please don't attack us. And anytime the Taliban needed more money, they would just attack more supply lines. So that's one way that we funded the Taliban. Our contractors basically funded them with the money that we gave them. And we knew this was happening. Okay, we don't just know that this happened. While it was happening, we knew it was happening. Now, there's this other article from RT, Russia Today, and it's titled, "Who Really Funded the Taliban to Kill Americans?" This article is from 2020. Now, this addresses the accusations levied at other countries, particularly the accusations levied at Pakistan. So the article goes into how there's plenty of evidence that shows that Pakistan funded the Taliban, and not only funded the Taliban, but they were the key foreign sustainer of the Taliban. So these lines that I highlighted here pretty much sum up the article, and it says, "Yet, in spite of the mountains of proof collected by the U.S. national security institutions that Pakistan was the key foreign sustainer of the Taliban, Washington failed to break this nexus. The U.S., while fully knowing what was happening on the ground, cumulatively gave Pakistan $33 billion in aid between 2002 and 2018. So that's what this article's about. It's very simple. If we knew Pakistan was the key sustainer of the Taliban, why did we give them $33 billion in aid between 2002 and 2018 until Trump switched off the money? So right here, though, this is very simply another way that we funded the Taliban via our Pakistan allies. We knew that they were sustaining the Taliban. Okay, this isn't something that we found out after the fact. No, we knew they were sustaining the Taliban, but yet we continued to give them billions of dollars worth of aid. Now, it doesn't stop there. Of course, another way that we funded the Taliban is covered in this Washington Post article titled, "Consumed by Corruption. The U.S. flooded the country with money, then turned a blind eye to the graft it fueled." So this is pretty much what we did. It's basically trickle-down economics for the Taliban. It's very simple. We flooded the country with money. The Taliban controls many black markets within the country. So it's just a matter of time before a lot of this money ended up in the hands of the Taliban, which is exactly what happened. So with just these indirect ways we funded the Taliban, we gave them tens of billions of dollars, if not a cool $100 billion. Now, this is important because the way that the Taliban just took over the country, the way that they just basically took Afghanistan back over, was by bribing generals. They basically bought cities. They went to these cities which had generals or whatever protecting them, and they bought those generals off, and the Taliban was just then able to just move right in and set up post.
And it's actually even worse than this because the US didn't just strengthen the Taliban financially, they strengthened the Taliban spiritually, or they strengthened the Taliban in the eyes of the public opinion over there. And that's also why the Taliban was able to take these cities so easily, because they actually have a lot of support. We're seeing a lot of videos of people who seem to be fleeing the Taliban. Really, a lot of them could just be taking the opportunity to get out of the country for economic reasons. But the fact is that a lot of surveys that have been done in Afghanistan show a lot of them are actually pro-Sharia law. And there's plenty of videos on the internet that show that a lot of people in Afghanistan were not happy about the US occupation over there. And then, of course, it also strengthened them militarily because we left all of this military equipment over there. So really, I mean, the Taliban's greatest ally or their greatest supporter appears to be the United States.